Greetings everyone. In today's session, we are going to continue our journey and talk about the first process, that is develop project charter out of 49 processes. Before we proceed, I have an important announcement to make. If you are a PMP aspirant, I encourage you to check the description box of my video for essential links. Let's take a moment to quickly review the key points covered in the previous video. This will help us seamlessly continue our learning journey. Remember, a brief review is essential whenever starting a new topic, especially for a comprehensive subject like PMP. Without revisiting prior concepts, it can be challenging to keep up with the new material. With that in mind, let's get started. Projects are divided into phases. Each phase goes through 5 process groups, that is initiating, executing, monitoring and controlling, and closing. And 49 processes live within those process groups. So each phase of the project has 5 process groups comprising of 49 processes. The goal of the 49 processes is to create a final product, service or result. We also call it deliverable. Due to space issue, I have not mentioned 49 processes on the slide. However, I would advise my students to take printout of this table where all 49 processes are mentioned and stick it on your study table. You need to refer to it throughout your project management course. I will try uploading it on my website as well and share the link in description of this video. Apart from this, we also explored some common inputs, tools and techniques and outputs. You might be wondering where these are applied. Look at the center of this diagram, specifically the box labeled process. These inputs, tools and techniques are applied to a specific process. Why? Because the goal is to generate a desired output. Next, we will go through each of the 49 processes to examine the inputs, tools and techniques, helping us better understand how the desired outputs are produced. We'll start with the first step of any project, which is developing the project charter and identifying the inputs, tools and techniques involved in this process. In my previous video, we have discussed many common inputs, tools and techniques and outputs, but this time, since we are actually producing project charter, therefore we are going to discuss which new things are involved. Before we proceed, we should be knowing what is the purpose of project charter. Project charter formally authorizes the project or phase. It documents initial requirements to meet stakeholder expectation. Now, the second question which comes in our mind is who creates project charter? Typically, it is developed by the project sponsor in collaboration with the project manager. It contains high-level information for senior management to evaluate project viability. Now let's move on to the second question which comes in our mind. What does project charter contain? It includes critical elements, cost, schedule, scope and anticipated benefits. Now we are going to see what components are involved in developing project charter. The first thing is the business documents. Business document explains why a project should be started. The two primary documents in this category are the business case and the benefits management plan. A business case explains why a company should undertake a project. It often includes a cost-benefit analysis to justify the investment. There can be many reasons for a company to initiate a project, but I am listing some for my students for their better understanding. Market demand, addressing a need such as launching a new product, organizational need, improving efficiency like reducing overhead to boost profits, customer request, enhancing a product based on customer feedback, technological advancements, upgrading systems such as installing a new operating system for better security, legal requirement, complying with new regulations, environmental impact, addressing environmental issues like cleaning up toxic waste, social need, tackling social challenges such as reducing crime in specific areas. We have just learned why a company should undertake a project. Now we will discuss some methods for selecting a project. Selecting a project involves evaluating its potential value and outcomes using various financial and economic criteria. So let's discuss each one of them. Benefit cost ratio, BCR. This ratio compares a project's benefits to its cost, making it a useful measure of profitability. For example, if a project generates $5,000 in benefits and cost $2,000, the benefit to cost ratio is 2.5. This means for every $1 spent, the project provides $2.5 in benefits. A higher BCR indicates a more desirable project. However, BCR does not count for the scale of the benefits or compare the projects to alternatives, which can be limitations. Now the second one is internal rate of return, IRR. IRR measures the profitability of an investment as a percentage. It is the interest rate that makes the net present value NPV of all cash flows equal to zero. A higher IRR means a better return. For example, a project with an IRR of 20% is typically preferred over one with 10%. Now the third one is opportunity cost. Opportunity cost is what you forego by choosing one project over another. For instance, if project A could return $5,000 but project B could return $70,000, selecting project B means losing $50,000 potential of project A. Understanding opportunity cost ensures resources are allocated to the most beneficial projects. Payback period. The metric indicates how long it takes to recover the initial investment. Shorter payback periods are better as they free up resources faster for other ventures. For instance, a project recouping costs in 2 years is more attractive than one requiring 5 years. Economic value added. EVA measures the net value a company generates after accounting for its cost of capital. It focuses on whether a project creates real shareholder value. For example, profits after taxes minus the weighted cost of capital give EVA. Positive EVA suggests the project adds value. Present value and net present value, PV and NPV. PV and NPV consider the time value of money, recognizing the money today is worth more than the same amount in the future due to inflation. NPV accounts for the project's cost and benefits. A positive NPV suggests the project is financially viable. The larger the PV or NPV, the more desirable the project. Return on investment, ROI. ROI expresses the profitability of an investment as a percentage. For example, if an investment of $1 million yields $1.1 million, the ROI is 10%. Higher ROI indicates better returns relative to the costs. Each method has its strengths and limitations. Often these techniques are used together to provide a comprehensive evaluation of a project's financial and strategic value. You don't need to memorize these methods, but it's important to understand how each mechanism works. Familiarize yourself with the concept and processes behind them, as this knowledge will help you apply the right method in practical scenarios. Now let's discuss second input, that is agreements. An agreement, often referred to as a contract, is essential for initiating a project involving an external customer. It outlines the terms and responsibilities of all parties and must be signed before the project begins. Other types of agreements include Memorandum of Understanding (MOUs), Service Level Agreements (SLAs), Letter of Intent, and verbal or written agreements. These documents ensure clarity, alignment, and commitment among stakeholders. I have already discussed enterprise environmental factors and organizational process assets with you in my previous video, so we will move forward to discuss the tools and techniques used to develop a project charter. So the first tool in tools and techniques is expert judgment, which I have already discussed in my previous video. Please consider that project management is a comprehensive course and there is a lot to learn. I cannot repeat concepts again and again in each video, otherwise we will not be able to cover the course in an appropriate time. So let's move on to data gathering. Data gathering is, as the term suggests, involves the collection of data. However, as a project manager, it's essential to employ specific techniques to ensure effective data collection. When creating the project charter, tools such as brainstorming, focus groups, and interviews are crucial. So let's discuss each one of them. Brainstorming. Brainstorming is a group activity used to quickly come up with ideas. A facilitator leads the session, which has two main parts: generate ideas and analyze them. This method is helpful for collecting suggestions, solutions, or important details from team members, experts, and stakeholders when starting a project. Focus groups. Focus groups involves gathering a small group of stakeholders and subject matter experts to discuss topics like project risks, success criteria, and other important issues. It is a more casual and interactive way to share ideas compared to one-on-one interviews. Interviews. Interviews are direct conversations with stakeholders to gather important details about the project. These include understanding the main requirements, assumptions, constraints, and approval criteria for the project. These techniques help capture key project requirements, including those related to scope, cost, and schedule, forming a strong foundation for project planning and execution. Now, let's move on and discuss interpersonal and team skills. Here are some key interpersonal and team skills that can be used in this process. Conflict management. This skill helps resolve disagreements and align stakeholders on key aspects of the project, such as objectives, success criteria, high-level requirements, project descriptions, summary milestones, and other elements of the project charter. Facilitation. Facilitation involves guiding a group effectively to reach decision, solutions, or conclusions. A good facilitator ensures active participation, mutual understanding, and consideration of all ideas. They also ensure the group agrees on results and that any actions or agreements are followed through afterwards. Meeting management. The skill focuses on organizing and managing productive meetings. It includes preparing an agenda, inviting representatives from all key stakeholder groups, and sending follow-up minutes and action items after the meeting. The fourth tool used in creating project charter is meetings, which I have already discussed in my previous video, so I am going to skip it now. Now let's discuss outputs. The first one is project charter, which we have already discussed in the beginning of this video. However, you might have noticed that we have another output in the output window, that is assumptions log. So what is assumptions log? The assumptions log is a record of all assumptions and constraints identified during the project. Assumptions are things considered to be true, while constraints are factors that may limit the project. For example, a project manager might assume that no hardware upgrades are needed to install a new application. This assumption would be recorded in the log. Similarly, if the project is limited by a short schedule that makes completing all required work challenging, this time constraint would be noted. The assumptions log is a dynamic document updated continuously throughout the project or its phases. Thank you for joining me today. I appreciate the time and attention of all my viewers. For those of you preparing for project management exams or certifications, I encourage you to explore my other videos for more in-depth coverage on related topics.